Every year begins the same way. New calendars, new goals, new plans, new resolutions, new ambitions, new promises we make to ourselves. We tell ourselves, this year will be different. Millions of people set goals. But let me ask you a question that might change everything. What if the one thing you need this year is not more money, not more connections, not even more opportunities? What if the one thing you truly need is the presence of God? Because, without God's presence, progress becomes pressure. Have you bothered to ask, why do so many people move forward, yet feel more lost than ever? Why do people achieve their goals, but lose their peace? Why do some people succeed outwardly, but collapse inwardly? Maybe, just maybe, it's because they moved into the new year without the presence of God. Progress without God becomes pressure. Moses once stood at the edge of progress. The road ahead was open. The destination was clear. But Moses said something shocking. If your presence does not go with us, do not send us. In other words, I would rather stay where I am with God than move forward without Him. That statement reveals a truth many people learn too late. You can move forward in life and still be moving backward spiritually. Moses once stood where many of us are standing right now. A new season was ahead. The destination was clear. The opportunity was real. But Moses said something shocking. If your presence does not go with us, do not send us. Think about that. He did not say, Lord, give me a better plan. He did not say, Lord, give me more people. He did not say, Lord, make the journey easier. He said, if you are not going with me, I'm not going anywhere. That is not fear. That is wisdom. Because Moses understood something many people learn too late. You can leave Egypt and still lose God. Let me tell you a true-to-life story. Mark was a successful American professional. Good job, nice home, healthy income. On the outside, everything looked perfect. But on the inside, something was missing. He had chased promotions, worked overtime, built the dream everyone applauded. But one night, sitting alone in his car after work, he whispered words that shocked him. I don't feel God anymore. Why do I still feel empty and unfulfilled? I feel a void within. Nothing had gone wrong, yet everything felt wrong. His plans were intact, his finances were stable, but the presence of God was absent. That was the moment Mark realized something powerful. Success without God's presence becomes a silent burden. Now let me tell you another story. This one is different from Mark's. Mark succeeded, then felt empty. This young man failed, again, and again, and again. His name was Daniel. Daniel was young, ambitious, hardworking. He tried everything. He tried business. It failed. He tried school. He struggled. He tried relationships. They broke. He tried pushing harder. Nothing worked. And the most painful part? He prayed less the harder he tried. Daniel believed something many people believe today. If I plan better, if I hustle harder, if I stay busy enough, I'll figure life out. But what he didn't realize was this. He had slowly removed God from his plans. Not intentionally, not angrily, just gradually. God became an emergency contact, not a daily companion. One night, after another failure, Daniel sat alone and whispered words soaked in pain. God, I can't do this anymore. Not a long prayer, not a fancy prayer, just honesty. And in that moment, for the first time in years, he realized something. He wasn't failing because he wasn't trying. He was failing because he was trying alone. Daniel saw it clearly. I planned my life without God, then blamed him for the outcome. He had asked God to bless plans God was never invited to. That night, Daniel cried. not tears of frustration, tears of surrender. He said, Lord, I need you, not as a backup, not as a last option. I need you with me. Something changed. Not instantly, not magically, but deeply. His problems didn't vanish overnight, but his direction returned. His life slowed down, and clarity stepped in. Doors began to open, not rushed doors, but right doors. Peace returned before progress did. And that's how you know God is at work. Because when God returns, he restores the inside before he rearranges the outside. This year, don't ask God to bless your plans. Ask him to walk with you, because where God's presence is, you will not be lost. You will not be stranded. You will not walk alone. Mark made a simple decision. He reordered his life, returned to prayer, sought God daily, and while not everything changed overnight, everything began to make sense again. Maybe you're like Mark. You succeeded, but lost God's nearness. Or maybe you're like Daniel. You tried everything, but nothing worked. Different stories, same problem. God's presence was missing. And hear this carefully. God does not abandon people. People drift away from God. But the good news is this. The moment you turn back, he is already waiting. This year, don't repeat old patterns. Don't plan without God and pray only when things break. Invite him into your thinking. Invite him into your planning. Invite him into your struggles. Because effort without God leads to exhaustion. But effort with God leads to alignment. Say this quietly in your heart. Lord, if your presence does not go with me, do not send me. The presence of God is not just about church attendance. It is not just about knowing Scripture. The presence of God is God walking with you, guiding you, restraining you, strengthening you. When God is present, confusion finds direction, fear loses authority, weakness receives strength. God's presence does not remove storms. It carries you through them. Joseph prospered in prison because God was with him. Daniel slept peacefully among lions because God was present. 3 Hebrew boys walked in fire, not because the fire disappeared, but because God stepped in with them. It is not where you are that determines your outcome. It is who is with you. The presence of God is not noise. It's not hype. It's not a feeling you chase. The presence of God is God with you. When God is present, decisions become clearer. Fear loses volume. Chaos loses control. God's presence doesn't always change your environment. Sometimes it changes you inside the environment. Joseph was still in prison, but God was there. Daniel was still in the lion's den, but God was there. The fire was still burning, but God stepped into it. The question is not, will I face challenges this year? The question is, will God be present when I do? One of the greatest dangers of a new year is speed. People rush. They plan aggressively. They move quickly. But speed without God leads to loss. Samson didn't lose his strength overnight. He lost God's presence gradually, and the most terrifying verse in his story says, "He did not know that the Lord had departed." Imagine still fighting, but God is no longer with you, still preaching, still working, still striving, but empty. This year does not need more noise. It needs alignment. Before you chase doors, seek God's presence. Before you chase success, seek God's presence. Before you move, wait for God, because a delayed step with God is safer than a fast step without Him. And I declare over you, this year, God's presence will go before you. God's presence will surround you. God's presence will keep you. God will walk with you. You will not walk alone. You will not wander aimlessly. You will not keep struggling without help. The presence of God will restore your peace, redirect your steps, and reshape your life. Say this in your heart. Lord, if your presence does not go with me, do not send me. Because with God's presence, you won't lose your way, you won't lose your peace, you won't lose yourself. The presence of God is the greatest advantage in life. If this message touched you, share it with someone who needs direction this year. Subscribe for more faith-filled stories that speak to the soul. Because the greatest advantage in life is the presence of God.